Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy. This is the Spyderco Dice. First off though, I want to thank my buddy Andrew for donating this knife to the channel. He sent this guy along and I'll sell it and the proceeds will go to charity, and that's just a beautiful thing. So thank you so much, Andrew, for your help here. Next thing, let's do a size comparison for you. Right here, Spyderco Delica. So you can see that the dice is actually, well, it's about the same size in terms of handle, but it's a much shorter blade length, certainly in terms of sharpened blade, so that's that. Here is your Spyderco Dragonfly. I'm making this comparison again a little bit later on. The Ontario Rat number 1 and Rat number 2, no, that's the one, oh, guys, why do I even try anymore? And why the heck not, we'll do your Spyderco PM2. So another Spyderco. Actually, these are not comparable in roughly any way. Guys, it's been a long day. But anyways, there's your size comparison. Next thing, this is actually the baby brother of a knife I've reviewed previously on the channel. This is the little brother of the Spyderco Domino. And the Domino was a great knife in a lot of ways, but it was just absolutely huge for the amount of blades you were getting. And it, too, was designed by Eric Glesser. You can see right here, this is Eric Glesser's Make a Mark. Eric is, if he is not now the CEO of Spyderco, he will be shortly, Sal Glesser's kid. But he's an incredible designer in his own right and just does great work. And so there's an Eric Glesser design. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of your Spyderco Dice here. Okay, so first off, on the good side, I do enjoy the Cosby sweater carbon fiber on this guy. This has got very much a bad Huxtable sweater sort of thing going on, and frankly, it's interesting, it's different, it's unique. I haven't seen this kind of Cosby fiber from anybody else, and it's something I enjoy. So there you go, that's nice. Second thing that's good is the clip on this guy is well done. Partly because it carries the knife very strongly canted in the pocket. You can see here that this hangs in this direction, and that helps to bring this relatively prominent and unrounded flipper tab a little bit out of play, which is something I appreciate. It is also a four-way clip, which means you can hang it on right side or left side tip up carry or tip down carry, which gives you a whole bunch of options, which is very nice. So that's good. Next thing, this has very, very nice fit and finish. It is a Taichung Spyderco, and they do great work. And you can see that in things like the stonewash on the titanium on the backside here. The finishing on the blade overall, the blade grind. I mean, it is just very, very nicely done. All the screws are recessed. The lanyard hole fits very nicely, or lanyard tube, that is, sorry. I mean, it's a well-made knife, 100%. And it also has some nice features to it. It has a lock bar insert, as we can see here, which also includes an over-travel stop, which is very nice. Next thing, the blade length on this guy is actually relatively short. This has a blade length of a little less than 2.5 inches, which is very, very legal. There are lots of cities around the country in the U.S. here that have limits of blades, you know, can't carry anything over 2.5 inches. You know what? This is a pretty solid choice if you're living in those kinds of areas. So 2.5 inches is a great, nice, and legal blade length. Next thing, this guy is smaller than the Domino, and that was the Domino's Achilles heel. It was an incredible knife, incredible ergonomics, a lot to love here, but it was just huge in the pocket. This dials that back. You get a shorter blade, but you get a knife that is much nicer to carry. This guy, I mean, to give you a sense of the carry size, is about the same, like I said, as the Spyderco Delica here, and so this dials that back a little bit, and so in some ways it makes up for the worst of the excesses of its older brother. Then finally, this is an Eric Glesser design, so it almost goes without saying these days, but it is very, very, very ergonomic. Eric is a master of ergonomics, frankly, maybe even surpassing his father at this point, and this is another great example. I mean, he's done the Native, the Mannix, etc. They're all incredible ergonomic showpieces, and this is another good one. This is spectacular in my hand, given they're smaller than most, but still. This is great, and so is the Domino. So, ergonomically speaking, this is absolutely stellar. But anyways, that's what's good about this knife, is it's got very, very nice ergonomics. It's got smaller, it's smaller than the Domino, which helps a lot. 2.5 inches, very legal sort of blade length. Got a lock bar insert over travel stop, nice fit and finish. It is actually strongly canted in the pocket with a four-way clip, which is nice. It's got the Cosby fiber up top here. So let's talk about what's great here. To me, what is absolutely great about this knife is actually the blade, in that it is a very, very nice little blade. Although leaf shapes aren't necessarily for everybody, you get a very, very nice steel here, the CTS XHP. You get a very tall, flat grind, which means that this is very thin behind the edge. And overall, it is very, very slicey. You can see it's very thin at the tip, making this a really great choice for a lot of slicey sorts of needs, as well as for things like clamshell packaging. We can get that tip in there and just kind of slide along. Look, this is a great great knife for actually cutting things, and that's something I've come to appreciate after handling a lot of knives lately that aren't great for actually cutting things. So to me, at least, that's what's great, is that this blade really will cut. Let's talk about what's bad. Okay, so on the bad side, first something I'm pretty neutral on, and that's the price. This is $190. That's certainly a lot of money. It's big cash, but the thing is, I don't think it's out of line particularly. You're getting a very solid steel, very nice materials, very, very good fit and finish and overall construction. This is a beautifully assembled knife. All that for $190 honestly doesn't strike me as bad, especially given what you can get from other brands at that same price range. So, to me at least, that's not really bad, but it's something a lot of people complain about. Next thing, this has very sharp edges on the blade. This is something that Spyderco tends to have trouble with, but like the Spidey hole, the inside of it is very sharp, etc. It's not something I'm in love with. You can take that down by just hitting these with a sharpening stone or a piece of sandpaper or something like that, being very careful not to scratch finish, but it's still something I'd like to see finished better. Next thing, this is using, as you saw in the disassembly, the super thin washer Spyderco bearing assembly. This means that you're probably going to want to be a little careful as you're taking it down to avoid over-tightening and then dimpling or bending that washer. This is something I've not actually personally had trouble with, but some other people who I actually, think know a fair amount about knives have had some issues with and have had experiences. So I'm hoping that they're going to do a little bit of constant quality improvement to change up that washer assembly in there. But for the moment, it works fine. You just want to be careful with it. Next thing, I would like to see a little more rounding on this flipper tab. You can see that the flipper tab has a very, very slight chamfer around the edge there. But I'd like to see this melted a bit more because that tends to make these flipper tabs a little nicer in the pocket. It's also very slippery. There's no jimping. There's no real texturing on the back of it there. So it would be nice to see something that allows my finger not to slide off this quite as readily. Then finally, I got to say, the detent on this guy is a little bit on the soft side. It will flip, and 90% of the time, it will flip. Maybe more than that, 95, 99%. During all the takes of this review so far, I've had one failure to flip. But the thing is, it is not super confidence-inspiring. It is not a super hard detent. And so it deploys, but I get the sense that if it gets gunked up for some reason, it really may not deploy, and that's just not great. So to me, that's the bad here, is the detent is a little soft. I'd like to see a bit more rounding on the flipper tab. It's using the super thin washer assembly from Spyderco that, is showing some signs of trouble. The blade has very sharp edges here, which could be rounded off, and the price is high, but I think pretty reasonable. On the ugly side, this is just not a very space-efficient knife in terms of the amount of blade you get for the amount of handle. I mean, if we compare this to the Spyderco Delica, like I said, this is about the same size in the pocket as your Delica, but if we look at the blade length together, the Delica is winning by a pretty good margin here. And even more telling, I think, is the comparison against the Spyderco Dragonfly. The Dragonfly in this guy's got about half an inch more blade. But if you look at the size of the handles together, holy crap, there's a big difference here. The Dice is just not a terribly space-efficient knife. You get great ergonomics, and that's one nice thing about having a larger knife, but you are carrying a whole bunch of knife on a regular basis that's supporting a relatively small blade. I mean, only this much of the handle is actually containing sharpened blade. That's not something that's terrible. It's not a deal breaker, and if you use your knife a lot and so you want those great ergos, it may be something you want to put up with. But at least for me, as somebody who carries the knife probably more often than I use it, that extra space taken up is not something I'm super in love with. So to me, at least, that's the ugly, is just that this design with the choil and whatnot, pardon me, is just not super space efficient in terms of your blade to handle ratio. Let's go into your final conclusion. So, final conclusion, the Spyderco Dice is a great knife, 100%. It's got very, very, very good ergonomics. It's got a blade that actually cuts things. The fit and finish on it is great, with very nice materials, assembled well by the Taichung factory, and it is nicely sized for a lot of legal situations. I think, sure, there is room for improvement on the detent. They need to get that detent a little bit stronger. In fact, that's been something Spyderco has struggled with in a lot of their flippers. I also think the thin washer system may need a little bit of updating, and this is absolutely not the best choice if you need compact carry. If you want as much blade as possible for as little handle, then you might go with the Dragonfly for a much smaller knife and the Delica for a much bigger blade. But the thing is, this knife is doing a lot more right than it's doing wrong. And in this kind of blade length range, and particularly for a frame lock flipper, there is really not that much out there. And I'm not aware of anything with this level of fit and finish or this level of ergonomic design in this 2.5 inch sort of range. And so, for me at least, if you're just looking for a pocket knife on the whole, and particularly if you carry a lot more than you cut, this is going to be a little bit big for a little bit little of a blade. But if you are in a situation where you have a blade length restriction, Or if you want a smaller blade with that great ergonomic force, I think this is a great knife. It will probably be a gem for you, and you should absolutely roll the dice. So I hope this has been interesting to you, that you enjoyed taking a gamble on this review, and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now. Oh, damn it, I should have made a piece of craps joke. Whatever. Bye now.